Now we are recording. Again, welcome to the fourth session of the Bahamas Natural Resources Foundation Emerging Leadership Program. We have a wonderful guest tonight. I will do that introduction when we go live on Facebook in a couple minutes. Once that live process is gone, I will ask you, please, as much as possible, keep your cameras on so that the Facebook visitors can see who these persons are, because we're going to have an exciting period. We want also other Bahamians to recognize that we have persons young who are interested in their future and interested in environmental and agriculture sector and working with the foundation for their own personal growth and development. So with that, I want to thank everyone for joining us this evening. And Mario and Andrea is doing wonderful work around keeping us coordinated. And I'm quite sure your particular task that they attached to you to work on, you're getting some headway. I do know that, excuse me, I do know that sometimes it starts a little slow, which is okay. And everyone has to get their balance, if you will. It's like you jump on the bicycle, right? And you're riding, but you're not falling, but you're trying to get your balance. And so that's typically what's happening in this area. But just to remind everyone, that the competencies and wisdom and knowledge that you're getting during these evening sessions are the soft skills that you will apply to yourself throughout your life, but also as you address some of the tasks, the projects that you're undertaking in the practical aspect of the program. If you remember, this is our fourth session. The first one was our introduction. Then the second one, we went into leadership, strategy and business acumen. And strategy, we talked about essentially what we're trying to do is you track the goals, and there are 5 points of strategies. Can you remember? You have to plan, deploy, the pattern, the position, and the perspective. The 5 pieces of strategy. So each one of those strategy pieces that you must keep in place. When you think about even for the projects that you're working on, what is the strategy that you will utilize to achieve the objective of that project? Something to always keep in mind. Also, we talked about last week a little bit, we stretched the second session into the third, where we talked about business acumen. And essentially, as we remember, for those who was not present during the business acumen section, that is available on our website. I sent you the link. It's also available on the OneDrive site. But if you don't have it, please just reach out to me or Andrea or Mario to get that link for the video. When we talk about business acumen, it's an in-depth understanding of how a business works, how it makes money, and how you basically work the strategies to achieve and make those decisions for the operational goals. Then last week, we talked a little about EQ versus IQ, emotional intelligence versus your intellectual quotient. And if you think about it, we said that your emotional intelligence always starts with your self-awareness. We have to realize who we are as a person, as an individual. Then we have to realize how others perceive us, realize how people perceive themselves. And so that's the self-management. Then the social awareness, how you engage with those people, and collectively comes all together under one umbrella. And if you remember, part of that awareness is understanding empathy, organizational awareness, how do you be positive, your influence. Also, we talked about conflict management. So all of these things, when you think about working with a team environment, it plays a very critical role in that regard. And then we will look tonight on Maslow hierarchy that Dr. Higgs is going to introduce. But before we do that, Andrea and Mario, could you take the helm for 2 minutes? I need to get the power string to my second computer. I'll be right back.
Well, good evening, everyone. I hope that all is well. I guess everyone, you don't know how difficult it is to run a program like this and to have a job at the same time. But I tell you, it is very difficult. I just want to thank everyone who has participated in some form of fashion, even in the smallest sense, in bringing all of this together. I hope that everyone is enjoying themselves with their projects and with their prospective teams, and really getting to see little by little just how this foundation operates, how it functions, and how it's going to benefit a whole host of persons. I know that the legal department is doing their thing, the business development, next gen, everyone is coming together and doing their small part in the functions of the foundation. And hopefully pretty soon, we should have some good positive news about upcoming events, as well as some other things that the foundation is doing. So I hope that everyone just stays intact, just stays invested in the good things that this foundation is going to bring to us. And Andrea, you have anything to add?
Hi, Mario. Just to reiterate what you said, everything's going well so far. So looking forward to tonight's presentation. Later on, after the presentation has been made, the marketing and legal team will report on what they've been doing over the last week. You're muted if you're talking.
Sorry about that. Yes, guys, apologies. I am preparing to launch the Facebook site, and that's what I'm doing right now. Okay, great. Bear with me. Go live. Okay, it's going live in a moment. It's setting up the stream, and we will be live in a moment. Good evening once again. Welcome also, I'd like to welcome the Facebook audience to our session this evening. It's going live in a moment. It's setting up the stream, and we will be live in a moment. I want to welcome the Facebook audience to a 45-minute vision of the Emerging Leadership Development Program, part of the Bahamas Natural Resources Foundation. We decided that it would be a good idea, as we get a plethora of leaders that some of you may not have the opportunity to meet in your day-to-day life. As they share wisdom to our participants in the program, we deem it also appropriate for those who should have the opportunity to hear us live on Facebook to perform that introduction. For the audience, I am Aj Cunningham. I'm the chairman and CEO of the Bahamas Natural Resources Foundation. We have on the call tonight, we have Ms. Andrea Moultrie. She's a trustee and secretary of the board, as well as a chief administrative officer. We also have Mr. Mario Coffney. He's the protectorate of our foundation and a protectorate's champion, because he really does a lot to keep us balanced, and he rolled his sleeves up, and we're very appreciative of him. But more importantly, we have a special guest tonight, and he will be discussing Maslow's hierarchy of needs and self-actualization. And that is no other than Dr. Leon L. Higgs. He's a retired educator. And let me just give you his introduction. Dr. Higgs received his BA degree from Union College in Lincoln, Nebraska, his Master's of Science degree from Northern Illinois University and his PhD from the University of Nebraska in Lincoln, Nebraska. He's had extensive administrative and teaching experience at both 2- and 4-year colleges and university levels. He has served as the Secretary General for the Bahamas National Commission for UNESCO. He has also was the former Director of Higher Education and Lifelong Learning at the Ministry of Education. He is also, Dr. Higgs is also the former president of the College of the Bahamas, now known as the University of the Bahamas. He has served as the Director of Training with responsibilities for the Bahamas Technical and Vocational Institute, BTVI, Assistant General Manager of Human Resources for the Water and Sewage Corporation, Executive Vice President at San Bernardino Valley College in California, Dean of Business and Office Divisional Chair of Business and Information Services at Oakwood College, now known as Oakwood University, and that's in Huntsville, Alabama. He also serves as the business division, as the business division chair at the College of the Bahamas and as assistant professor of business at Loma Linda University in California. Dr. Higgs has participated and made presentations at various conventions and workshops and conferences in the United States, the Bahamas, the Caribbean, and Europe. In 2017, Dr. Higgs published his autobiography, Barefoot to Boardroom. The book is available at local bookstores in Nassau, Amazon.com, and other international booksellers. Persons purchasing the book from Dr. Higgs will receive an autographed copy. That's going to be interesting, Dr. Higgs making our work in a virtual space, but I'm quite sure with someone with your accomplishment, you have a way of making that work. Welcome to our sessions, Dr. Higgs.
Thank you very much, sir. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I happen to be a former teacher, college professor, and I like sometimes to have a dialogue in my presentation or a back and forward discussion. But I'm extremely pleased to have been asked to do this presentation tonight. And for a number of reasons. I do believe in the work of the Bahamas National Trust Foundation. As a matter of fact, I became a member a couple of weeks ago. And so I'm delighted to be able to do this and to share for a few minutes my thoughts on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and more so to share with you probably some things that concepts that may be able to help you as you develop and grow your own careers. Now, I'm going to try and keep this presentation within a 20-minute time frame, hopefully no longer than 30 minutes, because at the end of the presentation, I would like to have a dialogue with you where you would ask questions. We can dialogue backward and back and forward, so that we actually, you become a part of the overall presentation. So I'm going to leave some room for questions and answers at the end. We can start the presentation now, sir.
Okay, one moment, getting it open right now. Thank you. The computer's a little slow. This is gonna be exciting. Okay, bear with me, gentlemen. Let me just share my screen. Can you guys see the screen?
Gotcha.
Okay, bear with me. Let me just set it up, get in the right mode.
The topic that we're going to discuss for the next few minutes is on Maslow's hierarchy and self-actualization. Next slide. Now, I believe some of you, if you've had classes in psychology or business courses or organizational development courses, even in sociology, you would have heard about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And of course, those of you who might not have been in any of those courses might not know what Maslow's hierarchy of needs are. Hence, now Maslow's hierarchy, this is a theory put forward by Abraham Maslow, and he came up with a 5-step system whereby he described human behavior and the basis for human motivation. And he gave us the 5 steps, and he said, he purported that as human beings, we have these 5 levels, not yet. We have these 5 levels.
Sorry about that.
Go back. Yeah, he is saying that we have these 5 levels that all people go through. For example, your very, very basic needs are satisfied. And once those basic needs are satisfied, of course, you move into the next level and the 3rd level until you get to the 5th level, which is self-actualization. Now, we now have some discussion, or not all of us agree today that human beings develop in that fashion, but we're going to talk about that in a few minutes. Let's go on to the next slide. Abraham Maslow, he in 1943, he published a paper on the development of human beings in terms of motivation. How were people motivated? And this is when he developed those 5 steps. Then, of course, in 1954, he published his book, which deals with the hierarchy of needs. And of course, the top of that hierarchy of needs is the self-actualization. Let's go to the next slide. Maslow states that there are 5 levels. Is there anywhere we can push it a little bit to the left, or if not, that's okay. He's saying that there are 5 levels which begin with the very basic need, and then it moves on to the advanced level or the next level. And he also stated that you have to complete 1 step or 1 level before the next level is, before you move on to the next level. Well, from a modern perspective, we believe that it does not work quite like that, because as human beings, we believe that those levels of need, motivation, that they overlap. For example, yes, at the very basic needs, once your basic needs are met, you're not so concerned about those anymore. But if you were to remove those, there would be some problems. And the practical application for this is in the workplace. For example, once people achieve certain things in the workplace, then they want to move on to the next level. However, if you were to remove the things that have been achieved, then they would become unhappy. So these particular levels, they all interact and they all overlap from time to time. Let's move on to the next slide, please. I'm wondering if they could see this clearly on the screen. Is it coming through clearly for the individuals? This is what Maslow's hierarchy of needs look like. At the very bottom here, the physiological needs. Maslow is saying for us as human beings that there are certain basic physiological needs that must be met before we can be concerned about anything else. For example, for air, food, water, your health, your instinct to survive. He is saying that these basic needs at that level, all human beings must meet those needs before they become motivated to move on to the next level. Now, that is true. That is true, because if you don't have air, if you can't breathe or you can't get air, you're really not going to be concerned about, say, the third level, love and belonging and those kinds of things, or a shelter or security, even though they are important. If you don't have air or if you don't have food, these are very basic needs. And he's saying that they must be met in all people. The next level he talks about is your safety needs. When you talk about safety, you're talking about people feeling safe and secure. You're talking about a shelter where you need a place to live. You're talking about job security. These are all elements that people need in order to feel safe. And so Maslow is saying that once your physiological needs have been met, once you're, then you go on to the safety needs, and then after the safety needs, you move on to the other social and the self-esteem, and then the self-actualization. I would like to say that for the first two of those, I believe that this is true. Most scholars would agree that those first two are true. All human beings need to have their physiological needs at the basic level. At the safety level, the basic level, they need to be met. But after that, the needs start to overlap. And the reason why that is true is because as human beings, all of us are different, and you would find that something that might be important to one individual may not be important to another. For example, the social need, which is the third level, love, belonging, inclusion, they are all important, but they may not happen with everybody at the same level. In other words, you do not have to go in a step 1, step 2, step 3 before your needs are satisfied. They're all intertwined because we as human beings, you can't put us in a box and say, well, you're going to go in a lockstep manner before you become self-actualized, or before you become you're satisfied or you're motivated. Now, for those of us who may be in supervisory positions or in management or in leadership positions, I think one of the messages from this is that as you work with people, you have to realize that they're not all going to respond the same way, and one size does not fit all. So you have to understand your staff, you have to understand the individuals with which you work, and you have to be able to have some kind of, you have to be able to deal with them sometimes on an individual basis. Now, I realize companies have policies, they have guidelines, but even within the policies and guidelines, there is room to take into consideration the individuality and where they may be in their own development from a needs basis. The third level, the fourth level, here I have, here it is ego. Some places would call it self-esteem. Maslow is saying that after those three levels are finished, you've reached those levels, then people, it's important for them that they have a certain level of esteem within the workplace. They have a certain amount of power and control over what it is they do. They want to be recognized for the work they do at that level. And then, of course, the fifth level is where he talks about self-actualization. This is where he believes that in the workplace, individuals at that level, they want to be able to develop. They want to be able to make a contribution in terms of even helping to direct some of the things that are going on within the organization. They want to be creative. They want to help in terms of helping the organization to grow. And by doing those kinds of things, Maslow is saying that those people would, they would have reached their level of self-actualization where they're comfortable, they're happy with what they're doing, and they're very pleased within the work setting. Again, as I've said earlier, that as human beings, we do not move in a 5-step lockstep hierarchy. But what we could say is that we know that people have needs. We know that the very basic needs, let's say at the first and second levels, are necessary for all human beings. We know that. And then at the other three levels, those three levels, they differ for individuals. They would happen on an individual basis. But the basic premise that I would like you to take away from this is that people do have needs. We do have needs, and those needs must be addressed, must be attended to in order for individuals to feel comfortable in the workplace as well as in their personal lives. That's the whole basis behind Maslow's theory. The lockstep, one after the other, is really not as important as the fact that we realize that people do have needs, and those needs must be dealt with. They must be taken care of if you're going to get the maximum amount out of individuals in the workplace. Then, of course, we wouldn't go through a process like this just to understand other people, but we want to understand ourselves. We want to understand what makes us tick, what makes us, what motivates us. You can look at the things that are motivational for you and the things that are not so motivational for you. Let's look at the next slide, please.
Sorry.
Now, we discovered that Maslow, after he had gone through all these needs, he had articulated the needs, he felt that, look, you know, I might have missed the boat here. And if I were to ask a show of hands, I am certain that there are a number of us tonight who might not have heard of Maslow's self-transcendence level. That's the 6th level. Most of us, I would say, have never heard of that. Maslow is saying that this he did, I think he developed this in I messed with my date. Come on. He developed that in 1965. He felt that, look, I've talked about self-actualization, but everything that he talked about in terms of self-actualization dealt with the individual and the individual being self-actualized. It's about the individual. And Maslow is saying that human beings, there is another level to the human spirit. And this is almost on a spiritual level, really. He's saying that when he talk about self-transcendence, he's saying that what is happening here is that there are certain things within the workplace, there are certain things within you that would cause you to go beyond, or you feel you have a certain feeling of euphoria or excitement in terms of accomplishing certain things. And usually in those kinds of accomplishments, they also involved other people, whereby you are assisting other people or other individuals to reach a certain level in their own lives. And so Maslow called this the self-transcendence, but you haven't heard a lot about it, is because in 1965, when he started developing this, he wrote it up, and then in 1970, he had a heart attack before it was published, and it was published after he died in his from the folks going through his diary. But for him, there was this 6th level whereby we as human beings are almost operating on a spiritual level, whereby we're not only self-actualized, but we have transcended that actualization, whereby there is a certain amount of satisfaction that comes to your life based on what it is you're doing, or based on certain things that would have happened in your life. He's saying that that is where we as human beings end up. Now, I would say to you, I believe that's a good place to be. That's a good place to aim for in terms of your own personal growth and development. And as you develop as leaders, as well as individuals, because I honestly believe that sometimes, we talk about what we should be as leaders, but we need those traits in our own lives before we can talk about leading other people to certain levels. Let's look at the next slide, please. Now, I entitled this particular part of the presentation, Beyond Maslow's Hierarchy of Needs. Yes, we all have needs. Yes, we know that even though we don't move in a lockstep level in terms of fulfilling our needs, we know that the need hierarchy is there, and it is important. But I also believe that for us as human beings, in order to be successful at whatever it is we want to do. I just want to share a few things with you that would assist you in terms of your own self-motivation and how do you navigate to get yourself to the level where you are not just self-actualized, but you are self-transcendent. Now, one of the first things, and this that I'm talking to you about now, basically comes from my own experience. I believe that in order to get to where it is you want to go as an individual in terms of your own growth and development, I believe that it is crucial that you have dreams. I don't mean dreams that you have goals, that you start to dream. I don't mean go to sleep at night and dream, but you have certain dreams or goals for yourself. And I believe that for me, for example, growing up in South Andros, I always had a dream or a vision of something happening beyond South Andros. How was I going to get from South Andros to wherever? I know that I wanted more than I had. I know I needed more than I had, and I knew that it was out there. And so I started to think and to visualize and to envision what it is I wanted to do for myself. So I would say to you, you need to dream. You need to have a dream, or you need to have goals that are applicable to you. And then once you have decided what it is you are that is important to you, you've got to realize, folks, that it does not matter what the people around you think. It does not matter what your family members think. It does not matter whatever is going on around you, because there are people who wouldn't understand your dream. There are people who wouldn't support your dream, but you have to be able to know what it is you believe. The next thing I want to say to you folks, that as you dream, what happened? What? We got cut off for a minute.
Okay. Are you good now?
Yeah, I'm good now.
Okay.
That as you dream, there is one thing I would like for all of you to remember, and that is each one of you is a winner. Each one of you is a winner. I'm gonna tell you something else. Each one of you was a winner before you were born. Each one of you. And you're saying, Mr. Higgs, what are you talking about? Let me just do a little biology for you, and don't get nervous. I'm not going to be offensive, but each one of us, our fathers, produce between 2 to 5 milliliters of semen. Each milliliter of semen has about 15 million sperms. Now, let's say, and nobody's going to say that his father was average, but let's say we're using that. Let's say Dad produced 2.5 milliliters of semen. We're talking about 37 million sperms. And guess what? Out of 37 million sperms, you're the one who made it. You beat all the others out. You're the one who made it. You're here. So you are a winner. You were a winner before you were born. Now, what happened between birth and now? A lot of people lose their way because they allow other people to steal their dream. They allow other people to steal their dream. I call them the dream stealers. For example, there are people in your family who would try and steal your dream. There are your friends. There are people on your job. Believe it, even people in your church and people in your community. They would discourage you or put roadblocks in your way. They do not share your vision, and they take pleasure in being eternal pessimists. Folks, don't let anybody steal your dream. As I was growing up, I wanted to go to school. I wanted to go to college. Nobody in my family had ever gone to college. But I was going. I left the Bahamas with $2,000 and about an 11th grade education, and returned with an earned PhD. Now, I'm not going to tell you all the things that went on in between that, but there were a lot of folks discouraging. There were a lot of discouraging situations, but there were also some encouraging ones. And for me, I was the focal point. I had to hold on to what it is I thought was important. And so I stuck with my dream, and eventually it paid off. You need folks. I don't know. Sometimes I watched Oprah Winfrey network, and there is a lady on there, Ayanla Vincenti, and she is a counselor psychologist, and she has a reality show. And she said that encourage yourself, support yourself, and celebrate every little thing about yourself. If you have a dream, I'm saying to you tonight, don't let anybody steal it. You've got to believe in you. You've got to believe in what it is you want to do. You have to support yourself, and you have to encourage yourself, and you can't depend on other people to do that. Yes, some people are going to do that for you, but you have to know what it is you want, and you have to do it for yourself. And the next, I think we should be on the next slide. The next slide. Okay, yeah. There are two reasons why people may not succeed. We've talked about that. One was to allow people to steal your dream, and the second one was in harboring hindrances. folks, your list of hindrances can be, sometimes you say, oh, I was born into poverty. Oh, people, when I lived and worked in the United States, the ethnicity was a big problem. Sometimes we talk about nationality. Sometimes we talk about opportunities, or the lack of opportunities. Let me say to you, if you have a dream, folks, don't find excuses. Don't find excuses, and you don't have hindrances. You go on, and oh yes, many of us were born in poverty. My daddy was fishing from Andros. My mother was a janitress at one of the public schools. They couldn't support me in college or university, but I didn't allow that to stop me from going after what it was I wanted. And so what I'm saying to you is, don't worry about the hindrances. Don't worry about what you have or you don't have. And it may not apply to some of you because some of you may be well on your way already. But not everyone is. And you may know other people that you can encourage to move from where they are so that they can get started. So you don't have hindrances. You let them go and you move on. Let's go to the next slide. Folks, you're responsible for your success. Take risks. Take risks. If you're going to get to that self-actualization level, or if you're going to get to that transcendence level, you have to take risks. You know, when I left Nassau with $2,000 on an 11th grade education, that was a big risk because I didn't know anyone where I was going. I just knew that there was something out there and I was going to find it. Now that may sound crazy, but that is the truth. And I left. Take risk. You don't worry about, and here's another thing. You know, a lot of us sometimes we wait until we see the path clear, and then we decide, well, we're going to move once we see everything clear. You never see everything clearly. For example, when I left here with the intentions of finishing high school so I can get into college, I didn't know where the funds were coming from to go to finish college. I just knew if I started, something was going to happen. Of course, I had to work toward it, try and make some things happen. I believe I'm talking to mainly Bahamians, so I can say this. I was coming from Andros back in those days, so I had no political ties. You know, sometimes people hear the Higgs name and they think money and affluence. No, I didn't have any of that. All I had was just courage and tenacity. But I left here, I finished high school, and then how was I going to get into college? But 3 days before I was supposed to leave Nassau, I got a scholarship. Went on, did the bachelor's. After I finished the bachelor's, I was coming home to the Bahamas to teach. And then Northern Illinois sent me a letter saying, you've been awarded an assistantship in the Department of Business. You have 2 weeks to let us know if you're going to take it. I didn't need 2 weeks to say yes to that because I didn't have any money. I didn't know how I was going to get to grad school. I just applied. finished the master's. But before I finished the master's, I ran out of funding because the assistantship only paid so much. And I decided that I was going to ask the Ministry of Education for a loan. Livingston Coakley was the minister then. And I went up there, a good friend of mine told me, you don't worry in going to the Ministry of Education because they only give scholarships for after the bachelor's degree, they would only give scholarships for people who are in law or medicine. So it's a waste of time. But I went anyway. I went, permanent secretary said to me, why don't you write a letter to the minister? And he asked me to sit there. I sat there, wrote the letter, went into the minister called me and he said, oh, we know your work. Rather than give you a loan, we would extend your scholarship for another year. And I had the funds. What I'm saying to you is, apart from taking the risk, I did what it was that I could have done. I couldn't, when I went to do the bachelor's degree, I couldn't see the master's. I didn't have the funding for it. But by the time as I was finished the bachelor's, the funding was there for the master's degree. And when I needed some extra funding, because I had already taken some steps and I was moving, that extra funding was there. So folks, when you're taking risks, sometimes what is going to happen for you is you can't see the whole picture. You don't know how that's going to end, but you know that if you take the first step, the road is going to clear up a bit more, and you take the second and you keep moving, and before you know it, you're where you always wanted to go. So take your risk and you must move. Then of course, take responsibility for yourself. You know, I believe all of us have heard it said that God helps those who help themselves. I believe, folks, that it is important for all of us to take responsibility for our lives. You take responsibility for your health. You take responsibility for your achievements. You take responsibility for your finances, your emotions. You take responsibility for everything about you. Now, I know there are those who may say, but hey, where does God come into the picture? You know, we're a religious country, and when we talk about somebody taking responsibility for themselves, you say, but hey, you're leaving God out of the picture. No, I'm not leaving God out of the picture. Because if you want all these goals and these dreams you have, and you sit down and you do nothing about them and say, well, God is going to do this for me, you wait forever. God expects you to move. He expects you to do what you can. In my own life, I did what I can. And then the creator, some people say a higher power, the universe, whatever you want to call it, intervene and help me across the finish line. But you have to do what you can do. Let's go to the next slide. Next slide. I believe, folks, that once we have done all we can do, once we have achieved that level of actualization, or that for those of us who may be fortunate to reach the level of transcending, once you have gotten there, I believe that it is crucial to give back, reach back, and give back. And if all of us were to reach back and give back to our community or our brothers and sisters, we would have an incredible community. I want to read you something that this is in the last chapter at the very end of my autobiography, where I said, be true to yourself. Identify your gifts so you can make your unique contribution to society. To refuse to complete this assignment is to have lived in vain. Nobody is capable of doing what you alone were created to do. Have a vision, you've got to have a vision. Cherish your dream, set goals, and let nothing hinder you, not even the dream stealers. In the race of life, the starting line is not the point of focus, since the individual has minimal impact on that spot. What you do on your journey through is not only crucial, but it is also important in determining where and how you end. Folks, I would like to say to you, set your goals, have your dreams. Don't let anybody or anything deter you or get in your way. And I'm saying this in a positive way because some people are just ruthless and unethical. I'm not talking about being unethical here, but you have to be committed to what it is you want to do. And if you are, you will find yourself becoming not just self-actualized, as Maslow puts it, but you would find yourself becoming transcending or being in a transcending position where you are experiencing some joy and positive experiences in your own life based on your accomplishment and based on what you've been able to do for yourself and others. And I thank you very much.
Welcome. Thank you very much for that, Dr. Higgs. That was an excellent presentation. And I'm quite sure some of our emergent leaders have had some opportunity to relate to the words that you said in their own pace and journey. So we would like to right now just entertain some questions from our member participants. Does anyone have any questions you would like to propose to Dr. Higgs at this time?
I must apologize. I took too much time.
You're fine, Dr. Higgs. You're quite all right. Are there any questions for Dr. Higgs?
Let's talk, folks.
I have a comment rather than a question. Is that okay?
Okay.
Sure.
Go ahead.
All right. First of all, Dr. Higgs, this is your good friend Felicity. Thank you for speaking with us this evening. Thank you for, in the past, giving me the opportunity to work with you to help to coordinate a successful UNESCO International Jazz Day.
Oh my God.
And also for the opportunity to write your story in my column and to tell about your book, Barefoot to Boardroom. So
I'm so
it's good
sorry. I didn't recognize you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. No, I know. I know. I know. I look a little different now. I'll tell you that later. But what I wanted to say about Maslow's hierarchy that I found interesting, I never knew about the part where he wrote about self-transcendence. And what I like about you mentioning that this evening.
Check it out. It's a good reading.
Yes, sir. What I like about it is that because as you were speaking about the needs, every time you went to a different tier, I was saying to myself, it's not necessarily my first priority, although it should be, but there was something else. And it wasn't until you mentioned the self-transcendence that it resonated for me. And what it is that it's reaching a level that some people may refer to as the Christ consciousness. It's that level where all of a sudden, the things that may seem so important, the materialistic things, if we look at the story of Christ, where he would live or what he would eat was not so important. He knew that just how foxes have holes, he said foxes have holes and birds have nests, but he had nowhere. But it was not his concern or worry, because each night he knew that as he continued to do the work of God, he would be fed and that he would have some place to go. The idea of having the need of needing to belong, that whittled away as he went through his through the wilderness alone and communing with God and realizing that even beyond these needs of wanting to belong to people that may not understand you, that you have this higher power, that the need to even be creative would have seemed minuscule in the sight of the Creator when you appreciate how great the work of the Creator is. And so all of a sudden, all of these needs that seem to be so important fade away as we choose to put ourselves in a position to render ourselves to a higher power, to the higher powers in the universe, and to use our skills and talents that we have for the good of our brothers and sisters in mankind. So thank you for that this evening.
You're welcome.
Wonderful. Does anyone else have any comments or questions for Dr. Higgs? Don't be bashful. How about you, Kaylin? Any thoughts? What's your feedback? Have you heard of the Maslow hierarchy before?
I heard of it before. It was familiar to me until he spoke about how you taking psychology classes and stuff. Because at first I thought it was a law thing until you spoke about it, and it was kind of familiar to me because I think I was taught this in one of my AA courses.
Yeah.
So everything that was said was kind of familiar. And with him, with Dr. Higgs, relaying the information back, like it just refreshed my memory and, gave me a better feeling for the topic. And I appreciate that. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Your mic is muted again, Mr. Khanna.
Thank you for that. Dr. Higgs, when you were going over the presentation and you got to the area of ego, so ego is tied with self-esteem, but sometimes we say someone has a big ego. They're so caught up in themselves. And sometimes that's really a trigger in some cases because they feel insecure.
Yes, yes.
So they're triggering their pursuit. Ego could be positive, I think. I'm asking about in terms of self-esteem and confidence, that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
But then ego can be so embracing that it's really because of a lack of or your journey. And like you said, the top three is not in the same order, where they may have a sense of insecurity. And so they use ego to complement that. What's your thoughts about that?
I think it's important for us to appreciate who we are. It's important for us to respect ourselves. It's important for us to feel good about who we are. But the person who is secure feels good about who he or she is, and they're comfortable with themselves. They do not have to do some of the crazy things we see people doing, that when we say, boy, he's really egotistical. That's not the kind of thing we're talking about. But if I feel comfortable with who I am, and I see you having an issue in the office, it's quite easy for me to come and lend you some assistance and not make you feel inferior or make you feel bad. It's the way how I would do it because I'm quite comfortable with me. So I can assist you. The ego that I think you're talking about is the person who would see you having some issues and sort of make you feel even worse for having those issues rather than assisting you in solving the problem that you may be having. So there's nothing, self-esteem is important. Self-esteem is important because people
You froze a little, Dr. Higgs. Hopefully he'll come back in a moment. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay, there he is, he's back. Dr. Higgs, can you hear us? He seemed to be frozen. We'll continue the conversation and see if he joins us back, or he'll probably sign back in. So so as he try to reconnect and we bring this section to a close, when he comes back, I'll thank him in person. But can someone else kind of share any thoughts around when you look at your journey and where you are? And before you share that, I just want to say, I've seen persons in the past that they're trying to help themselves, right? And when you look at the very first, you think of air and food. I've met persons, and you probably know persons throughout the country, where they're just in survival mode. When I say I'm just survival mode, that's all I'm in. Where love, relationship, ego, all those things, I just need food. I need a place to rest my head. I need to breathe. I need security, some of those basic things. And sometimes we have to realize when we look at someone wherever they are in their world, from the outside looking in, we have to sometimes try to empathize and understand where they are in their journey. Someone is on the verge of being homeless. Certain things are not important at that point. No matter what you see they have, they may have a car or they may have other items. There he's coming back in. But it's really understanding where they are in that piece. So Dr. Higgs is coming back on now. Excellent. But I'm going to pick on someone else. Let's see.
I don't know what happened. It just kicked me out.
Yeah, that's fine. We're holding the fort until you came back.
Okay, I'm back.
Yes, so I want to see if anyone else have any questions for Dr. Higgs. Guys, come on. You don't get to speak to him every day. So this is a great opportunity. Jared, do you have any questions?
Good evening, Dr. Higgs. This is
Good
Myron
evening,
McCartney.
sir. How are you?
I'm well. I just have a quick question. The Maslow principles, how does it tie in with the characteristic of grit?
Say it again for me, please.
The principles that we discussed, how does it tie in with the characteristic of grit? G-R-I-T.
G-R-I-T?
Yeah, grit, yes.
Well, I would say that as you progress, and again, we did say that those after the first two levels, they move all over the place, up and down, but you have to have a certain amount of grit, tenacity in you to actually do what it is you want to do, you need to do. Because yes, there are basic needs that human beings have, but we do not all have them at the same level. We do not all they're different for different people, except the basic ones. Everybody needs food and air and shelter. But after that, a whole lot of it is going to depend on you and what you put into the mix to make these things happen for you. A whole lot. Go ahead.
No, please, you continue.
I thought I saw Trey Johnson hand up. Did I Mario, did I answer your question, or you had, yeah, did I answer your question, or did you?
No, you answered it. I was listening to the concepts, and I found a lot of it tied in with that characteristic. Certainly in today's age, it's almost pertinent that you have some form of grit. You've got to keep going because it's literally like a jungle up, as many would say, especially on an island, in an island economy where you have so much competition, such a small square space. So it just sounded a lot of those concepts tied in with that character.
You have to be very focused.
Yes. So yes, you did answer the question. I appreciate that.
Okay, I thought Trey Johnson. Did you have your hand up?
No, I actually didn't.
Okay.
Well, if there's no more questions, I want to give Dr. Higgs a good round of applause for his work, his presentation. Very good. Thank you, Dr. Higgs. If you want to come back to our group, if you have any additional wisdom in the future, we're on until the end of August, or please feel free to reach out to me, Mario or Andrea. And I humbly thank you for your contribution and sharing your wisdom and life experience from the south side of Andros all the way to Nebraska with a PhD. And I think you hit it so clearly. And one thing we know about the foundation, we realize that we're fighting this battle, and we're pushing our efforts for the betterment of the Bahamian people. And you're correct, we do not have the full roadmap of every nuances, but we have the dream, we have the tenacity, and we have members like our emerging leaders. We're all coming together and collectively forging, and to the organizational sense of self-actualization. So I want to again thank you very much for contributing to this opportunity to the members, the emerging leaders. And I will, in the final words of departure will say, I will circle back with you, and I'll have the video for your review if you want to use it, look at it and for reference purposes, and we'll go from there. Again, thank you, Dr. Higgs, for your time tonight.
You're welcome, sir. I appreciate the invitation to be here tonight. I really enjoyed it, and time went by so quickly. I wish all of you the best. Country needs all of you, all of us. I'm saying all. I usually tell folks at 73, I'm not ready to go anyplace yet.
Well, we're not ready for you to go anywhere either.
So I'm not going to say all of you. Our country need all of us. Have a good evening, folks, and thanks again, and I'll be in touch.
Thank you, sir. And for the Facebook audience, this ends our live stream. Good night, Facebook. Okay, guys, thank you once again. We're off Facebook, and I'll pass the floor on to Mario and Andrea.
Andrea, you can go first.
Okay, well, over the last week, the marketing and branding team have been working on a branding exercise that was discussed at the last meeting. Just to refresh everyone's memories, the team has been, and I think it should be completed now, but the team has been working on a logo design brief for the foundation. What that brief is intended to be is a set of instructions to the graphic designer, whoever the graphic designer is that the foundation will choose. And all of you should have reviewed the website by now and should have seen the logo that's in place today, which is a really good logo, but we're just looking for something a bit different moving forward as the foundation pushes forward and takes on new initiatives, hopefully has a wider reach, a more global reach. So I think Felicity will present the design brief to the team, to this group.
Yes.
Mhm. Take the
Okay.
floor.
Thank you very much. Just pulling it up now. All right, so our marketing group consists of myself, Felicity Dawo, Jafara Gibson, and Jabez Paul, and all being of like minds. It was very easy to be inspired and to come up with our brief. So first of all, the description of the company. The Bahamas Natural Resources Foundation is a nonprofit organization with the mission of protecting, preserving our natural resources, while also empowering people through education about our natural heritage. And before recent times, there was much to be had in terms of education about our natural heritage. And it's a great time as it's election time and as people seem to be more interested, whether it's through the development of the internet and also through the work of foundations like this, that people are more interested in understanding about our natural heritage. And as they find out just how rich the Bahamas resources really are, they, we would hope, would be interested in being a part of the BNRF and join the mission of protecting and preserving our natural resources. The foundation also supports a strong regulatory framework and transparent controls of the country's substantial natural resources and related revenues within the extractive industries in the public's interest. The description of the project: we want to revamp the current logo for the BNRF to a more modern, fresh, impactful, and memorable design. The logo must keep in line with the overall mission of the BNRF, and it has to include the two important elements. One, as you would have seen from the website, you would have seen the current logo of the mangroves, and two, reflect the Bahamian flag colors. Why is this mangrove so important? We agree with the executives that the mangrove is a perfect symbol when we speak about natural resources, because the mangrove itself is an element that joins the land and the sea. The mangrove, as you know, protects the land. It's a great barrier for sea surges due to tropical storms and hurricanes. It's a barrier for the inland. It also helps to keep the land itself compact and together instead of washing away our shoreline. It's also important for the sea because, of course, as you know, it is the home of the nursery for many varieties of marine species, fish, crustaceans, and so on, helping to keep these animals safe until they're ready to go out into the big ocean. And so we love the idea of keeping the mangroves. And we want to also keep in tandem with the Bahamian flag colors, because once again, that beautiful golden sun shining on the land and the beautiful turquoise of our seas. So it's keeping that land and sea that we cherish so much in the country. The due date for the logo will be determined by the executive members of the foundation. Based on current advice, we're looking at possibly 3 weeks. The goals are to have a logo that stands out, that is unique to the brand of the organization, and one that people immediately after seeing it will associate with the BNRF. The logo's messaging must be clear enough and concise enough that anyone can interpret the overarching message of the foundation, that is preserving and protecting the natural resources of the Bahamas for our people. The target audience. Many times when you have a target audience, people are looking for specifics. But we decided in our meeting that the target audience really should be people of all ages, and not only Bahamians, but friends of the Bahamas internationally who are just as interested in helping us to preserve our natural resources. Why people of all ages? Because right down to the preschool, when they're in the primary schools, the preschools and primary schools are teaching about our national symbols. So having students that understand and maybe even have a youth arm eventually of the BNRF in these schools, just starting from the very beginning, gives them a good foundation for life. Of course, you want the people in the work and that are earning money to become members and to support the foundation. And of course, we need the wisdom of the elders. And so therefore, that is why our target audience remains as broad as it does. The project details and the vision. The logo can feature the mangroves as the central and focal element. And what we are thinking is that silhouettes from the mangrove roots representing people of all ages. And the reason is because as we have the mangrove tying in the land and the sea, we also want to remember that one of our greatest resources would be the people themselves. And so we felt that the people should be represented in the logo and that they could form a barrier around the mangroves. The colors can be incorporated through aquamarine water around the roots and the gold shining sun. Of course, this is a loose interpretation because what we really want is for the graphic artist to be inspired by what we're sharing and to come up with a few recommendations of their own or a few renditions of this logo. So like we said, this is a skeleton of an idea, can be later discussed in greater detail with the graphic artist. The style we're looking for is modern and fresh. And once again, the colors, aquamarine, black, and gold. Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you, Felicity, and thank you to Jafara and Jabez as well. Great job.
Yes.
Does anyone have any
Thank you as
questions?
well.
Can one of the team members describe the process and how you went about putting it together?
Okay, I can do that. We decided to meet through a three-way WhatsApp call, and basically all of us had already went through the information that was sent to us, right, by you, Andrea, the design brief article. So we immediately understood what we needed to present. The information was pretty straightforward, and when we got together, we were all already thinking, we were already thought about how we would want to see this logo. And so just bounced ideas off one another, and we came up with that particular idea. So it was just basically us having previously brainstormed and come into our meeting basically prepared and ready with ideas to share. So that was how that process went.
Thanks. And I am going to have you all drop the design brief in the OneDrive folder.
Yes, we have.
Okay.
Mhm.
Would other students be able to access it?
Yes, everyone can access the OneDrive folders for all the groups.
Okay, great.
What I
But,
can,
So thank you.
but
When
I set it up, but again, if someone is having difficulty, just let me know.
what I would like to add about this particular assignment, it was a really good practice run in terms of for people who are interested in becoming entrepreneurs. You know, one of the first things that you kind of have to do is, you know, form your business, have a clear idea, plan, business license, etc., and then actually come up with a vision or how you want your business to be received by people. And so going through this particular run of a logo, it's actually helped me for future projects that I would want to work on, go through that process and actually be able to deliver that fairly easily, I would say. So that was a plus for having to do that assignment.
Excellent, excellent. Jabez, anything you would like to add to the work, to the teamwork?
Yes, I liked how fluid our process was. Like she mentioned, we just went on a group call, but we kind of fed off each other's energy. And having worked on some logos in the past, this actually also showed me when you kind of have it all laid out, it doesn't have to be like a guessing game. So although it's creative, there still is method to it, and it kind of reminded me and showed me that creativity isn't just throwing stuff at the wall, but being very strategic in what your mission is and following that through.
Excellent, excellent. Mario, Andrea?
Okay, just briefly, I think last week we had I had a chance to sit with the Next Gen group. We were trying to structure the upcoming project and basically to initiate some research. Now, I'm not sure if they had met after that, but I think Gerard is present. Gerard, if you did have a meeting or if there's any updates, you know, you can feel free to share.
Seems like he's not there. Oh, someone's coming in. That's Prescott. Okay.
Okay. Well, while he gathers himself, well, basically, while the group is doing their research, I would ask again for the entire group if they did have the opportunity to you know, to try to take some photographs and some still videos of the environment, you know, that would help. That would be included in the project. Obviously, it would be in video format. And if you haven't gotten the opportunity to watch any of the first two episodes, you should, you know, check out their Facebook page and, you know, take a look. It's off to a great start. It's a very good concept, and definitely the subject of food security is very pinnacle, especially in today's state. But definitely they will need footage of still video shots. Doesn't have to include persons. That would help them along with the project. Now, in terms of the legal group has obviously been working on the foundation's administrative documents, and I think they're making some headway with that. And I would invite either O'Neill or Kaylin to come and share their an update on the work they've been doing. Well, I should ask O'Neill, seeing that he's more or less been in charge of that. So if O'Neill, you could take it from there.
Yeah, so currently it was just a lot of, like you said, just working on the and like code to conduct, code to conflict, working on those stuff, doing research to make sure everything's in order, and just coming up with drafts so that I can just get them reviewed and then perfect them and finish them off.
Are you moving down the list? Are you moving down the list of tasks,
The list of,
the various topics?
oh, yeah, like I was saying, the codes of conflict, sexual harassment, conflict of interest. That's the ones I can remember off the top of my head. It's a few, so.
Okay. Right. So yeah, so ultimately things are progressing, but definitely I believe the next gen group will probably need some assistance with that. I don't know if Gerard has come forth, but in any event, anyone else from their group they can share, or we can just.
What would you say about
Go ahead.
Gerard? Say that again.
Yes, we want to know the next gen project. I was wondering if you all had a chance to meet up again to discuss the strategy further, or if there's any other updates that the group has made.
As the moment, we haven't had a chance to meet back up, but I'm sure Ashley is working on her stuff. Is Ashley on the line?
No, I don't think she's on tonight.
Just want to say
Oh,
good night to
all right.
everyone as well.
Good day, Prescott.
Hey, it's just I'm listening and learning from you all.
Yeah. So Prescott, I was trying to call you the other day. I don't know if you got a missed call from me.
Honestly, I can't keep up with the calls, but the best way would be if you probably send me a message, like type it, and I'll get to read it and call you back. You know, like that.
All right.
Because there'd be so many calls. Just physically try to keep up with what you can and catch up. You know.
All right. All right.
So Mario, I think Trey can give for business development.
Yes, that's right. Go ahead, Trey.
Well, as Mr. Cunningham was saying, the best part will be me and the only one there. It's easy to streamline our tasks. But for the business development, he gave me about 5 pieces of not documents, but it's one document, but 5 pieces of assignments to do. Things like the foundations, the ESGs, the SDGs, the pistols, and then he wants me to look through the business plan and a confidential document and make the matches as we continue to streamline it. And he's already identified one area that he wants particular to work on, but not as yet. But we have mainly been focusing on working on the business plan and streamline it and add more bulk towards the business plan.
Trey, could you explain, you mentioned ESG and SDG. Could you explain what those are?
Right. So in layman's terms, the SDG is, if I'm not mistaken, Sustainable Development Goals. And investors nowadays are not only looking at, how much money they can bring to the equation, but they're also looking at what you're doing for the community and what you're specifically doing for the environment. As you know, the global warming is and climate change is a big topic. And investors and people who invest in money want to know that you're doing things that line up with keeping the environment, like reducing the plastic usage, and also what you're going to do socially inside the community what your community projects are going to be. So those are some things that Mr. Cunningham was explaining to me about what the foundation's markers are in terms of what they are when they launch a for-profit organization, what they're going to look forward in terms of talking to investors.
And what did you learn about the business plan?
Right. So let me relate this. What I learned about the business plan, it's very, very detailed. So the funny thing is, Mr. Cunningham said one of the last things you actually write a part of your business plan is actually the executive summary. I got that right? Correct.
Correct.
Yes. And some of the things you focus in on is the market. You need to know who you're selling to, what you're selling, your competitors, what the advantages, and you gotta find your niche market. So if I'm gonna sell honey, well, maybe people like medicinal honey inside the Bahamian market, and there's a market for that. So I could carve out that section of the market for me. Also, another thing we said with me, a lot of people tend to fail on is the operational practices. You could have the best ideas in the world, but if you can't operate a business, you are going to fail. And he was telling me some funny stories about some of his life stories about how he dealt with bad operations, and he was telling me how would that work. And yeah, that's basically the gist of it.
Great. So, and just to close up, one of the things that we realize in this program for everyone, that we will be stretching you to experience things or work in a way that you probably have not worked before. Both Andrea and Mario are seasoned professionals. And so as Jabez said very, very astutely, that we try to be creative. Creative is not just going into the room and just start painting. You have to have a plan. Remember, I always say people don't plan to fail, they simply fail to plan. And so before we get into the business plan to expose that with Trey, we're understanding, he's learning what is the business plan, what is the thinking that you have to go through. And one of the very first things in any business, and I am glad to hear that that the marketing team has discovered that is the mission and the vision. That's where you start in any process, because if you do not know where you're going, how are you going to get there? And as Dr. Higgs said in his presentation about Maslow hierarchies, is that we know you have to have that dream, right? And then you have to put it into action. And so the vision is that dream, that mission, how for the organization. Then you have to put the planning is the operations, and then you put it into action. So everything that we've been learning and discovering heretofore, and also other information on the other topics, just go back and look at the series that's coming up for the next in 8 weeks, 9 weeks. And if you want to do your own research ahead of time, do your research ahead of time, because you will find that those principles and disciplines that you'll learn will definitely tie into the projects that you're working on. And all of a sudden you realize that there was things that you didn't know. And that's where life starts, or continues, I should say.
Pardon me, Haj.
Yes, please. Oh yes, go ahead, your hand's raised.
Can you see when the hand is up? Okay, just one.
Yes, I'm sorry. That's why I need Mario and Andrea to help me.
Okay, good. No, because I sometimes put it up because I don't want to just interrupt, but I don't know if you were able to see it.
Yes, sorry.
I just wanted to say, no, it was true what you just said, because I have spearheaded campaigns and worked on projects. I have helped to create logos, including 2 that are nationally used. I have never done a design brief before for them. I just relay what my client wants to the graphic artist. So it's true that, about the planning. And so that's something that was a good takeaway for me this week.
Excellent. Excellent. I'm glad to hear that.
I'd like to add too, in terms of business, what I'm learning is, you have a lot of people who want to be entrepreneurs, are buying into this idea that when entrepreneurship means empowerment, but running a business is really has a lot to do with marketing and what you are. Okay, for me, I see businesses as personalities, right? And everything that you do, when you market, when you represent yourself, when you put any information out there about your business, it has to reflect, like you say, that overall mission and vision. The mission and vision is where you begin. It's how you plan your business, it's how you determine what you do, how you do it, how you present yourself to the public or to your audience. And this project, doing the design brief, help to keep you in line with the brand and how you want that brand to be received.
That's excellent, Jafar. You hit it, you knocked it out of the park with that. Yes, you did. You're muted, you're muted. You're muted, Jafar, you're muted.
Yeah, businesses have a personality and everything that you do. And when we decided on the logo, we kept our target audience in mind, which is just about all people of all ages. And everything that we decided on was referring back to what that mission is and how we want the vision to be received when people see the logo. And that is something that I would carry on in every other venture that I put my hands to, because it has to all be coherent, cohesive, and it has to stick to the vision. And that's what jumped out at me doing that whole design brief.
You know, and you know what, and I thank you for that, Jafar. And I just want to add something that is so profound that Felicia represented your team with. Understanding the importance of the mangroves and the biodiversity. Some people see, oh, that's just a plant. They don't see what it's doing. So, and they don't necessarily understand what the purpose is from a biodiversity perspective. And you touch about it, the marine life in terms of it being a nursery, the protection of hurricanes and storm, and adding also to the density of the land and for shore erosion and those concepts. But I want to throw something else at you guys. Can we have what do you think of a byline? The Bahamas Natural Resources Foundation, you see our logo, and then a word, a sentence that what we stand for. Maybe you want to consider a byline so that it's not just
like a slogan?
A slogan.
Did the foundation have one already?
We do not.
Okay, all right.
So
okay, that's something we could look at.
Yeah, we can brainstorm.
I just wanted to add a little something to what Jafara said, and that is that all of the logos that I've done before, when I see them on signs or in the newspaper and whatnot, like without even seeing the name of the organization, it's so automatically recognizable, as Jafara had mentioned, the personality. And so people are, I find that in the Bahamas, people seem to underestimate how important it is, that symbol that you choose. But it's like, and then, you know, they think that, first, I just find that they find like this marketing thing, it's not as well appreciated to me as it's been in other parts of the world. But it's so vital because even before you get into any other aspect of who you are, there's that symbol. And so, you know, that this is an important part of the process.
Yes, I agree wholeheartedly. Any final words before we part? I remember a little over time, but I think it was well worth it. I will be considerate of your time. Andrea, Mario, any go forth pieces you want to add?
I think this is something that we will have to all touch on later, but I know that the Next Gen team is working on that campaign for food security. And so what Aj and Mario and I were discussing was ways to, because that's going to be a campaign for the foundation. So what we're talking about is ways to get all of the different focus groups to play their roles in putting that campaign, or bringing that campaign to life. So looking at like the research arms, looking at the marketing and for that campaign, looking
Hello,
at anything.
yeah,
Would have
can you
for that.
all hear me?
Yes, yes, Prescott.
Looking at the business development and how we could really build out that campaign. So we all are going to be working on the tasks set for now, but at some point that's going to be a conversation that we have. And we're going to look at how we can really this entire group and bring that to life using our individual strengths. So just y'all keep that in mind as we move forward.
Prescott, you would like to have the floor?
Yes, one of the things I just want to say, I'm very encouraged. This generation, just 1 second for me. I am on a highway trying to make my way back to Orlando. I want to encourage that the foundation, the goal of the foundation, and this is not to shift from what you're focusing on, but this generation cannot fall victims to what happened to us in terms of they need to know who the real enemies are in terms of the economic system that stifles so many of our citizens. And so one of the things, 1 second for me, please. Thank you. My apologies, guys. I'm gonna have to stop here for now because I made a serious boo-boo here on the highway. And then I'm in serious traffic. So
Okay.
I just want to encourage you to keep up the positive work you're doing.
Okay, thank you for that.
I'll share my thought with you at another time. Okay.
Okay, drive safely.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Prescott.
I'm
And
in a
something
truck.
else, piggyback on what Prescott is saying, just to invite y'all again to the annual general meeting tomorrow. You all are important members of our team, and I think you all should attend to represent one and also to find out exactly what the foundation has been doing. So when you say you're a part of this program, you could actually speak to what the foundation is doing. I'm not in this little silo over here, but as a part of the overall team. So that meeting is scheduled for tomorrow at 7. And you're gonna send the flyer and put the Zoom details in the WhatsApp group. So y'all please come out and attend.
And that's an excellent point, Andrea. And I am remiss, and my apologies. I believe I may have said it at the beginning of our session, but I just want to reiterate it one more time. And that is, by you participating in this leadership development program, your membership in the foundation is complimentary. For some of you who already are members and have paid your annual dues, then the renewal of your dues will be complimentary. So if you're still in active and good standing, once that your membership dues expires and whatever month that was, the next year will be complimentary. So that just comes along for the new members, and for the existing members, it's a small sense of our appreciation, and we will continue to enumerate you and reward you accordingly. But I just want to let you know that your commitment to this, and as Andrea just stated, you consider yourself not just adjuncts to the foundation, but you are officially members of this foundation. Anything else?
Thank you.
Great. Mario, any parting words before we close for the night?
Not too much, but other than the fact that I hope that the next event, we get a chance to, advertise it some more so we get a lot of viewers. I know I shared the flyer that was made. I know it was really off the bat, but I got a lot of interest in a short period of time. So for the next session, definitely, we definitely should make an effort to advertise and give it a few days notice. I'm sure you're going to get a lot of interested folks involved, but tonight is definitely something to build up on. And I like the way things are progressing. And honestly, before the end of the program, I see a lot of interest in the program and the foundation itself. So it's really a nice revival of the foundation. And I hope that the trustees and everyone can appreciate that.
Wonderful. On that note, I want to say good night to everyone. Unless anyone has any final words, I will say good night. We'll continue to work on your projects, work on the updates. We'll see you all tomorrow evening at our annual membership meeting. And then we'll see you next week, Thursday. Our meeting was tonight on Wednesday because the membership meeting is tomorrow on Thursday. We will see you tomorrow, Thursday, and the following Thursday. Thank you all for what you do. Have a pleasant evening. Good night.
Good night.